Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs, and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the big honor to talk to Emma-Louise Elsey. Hello, Emma-Louise. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's a big honor, is it? I like that.
Yeah. So, Emma-Louise, we could try to introduce yourself, but you're the person who knows yourself much better than we do. So, who's Emma-Louise? How did she come in coaching? What does she do nowadays?
Okay. Well, as you know, my name's Emma-Louise Elsey. So hello, everyone. And my goal is to make the world a kinder place with fierce kindness. But I know that many of you know me as a person who started the Coaching Tools company, and I ran that for 15 years. So there is that. That's got I created over 150 coaching tools with that. There's hundreds of articles on the blog and a newsletter with tens of thousands of awesome readers, hopefully, who are watching the podcast today. And should I mention that Steve and I have just finished our final contribution to the my final contribution to the Coaching Tools company, the Executive and Leadership Toolkit, which has 52 awesome coaching tools. And it's awesome. Steve and I have been working together on that for about 6 months. So if you're an executive or leadership coach, I really recommend you go and check that out. But now what am I working on? To get back to fierce kindness, so many of us are tired, busy, overwhelmed, and we're really hard on ourselves. So with fierce kindness, what I'm trying to do is offer a new way of being that is so needed in this volatile and uncertain and unkind world. And we offer all kinds of solutions and resources to help, but the key is bringing more kindness into the world. And underneath that is being kind to ourselves first. And from there, kindness ripples out into the world, a bit like the oxygen mask principle. But, and here's a big but, being kind to ourselves, I think, takes courage, hence the fierce, because our culture just wants us to speed up, to do more, to be online more. And I wondered whether that could be a good place to start our conversation, why we find it so hard to be kind to ourselves.
But before that, I would like to know, Emma-Louise, how did you get in coaching? When did you get in coaching, and how do you got connected with coaching?
Okay, first of all, I was a coder, then a project manager in the corporate world. So NatWest Bank, Ford Motor Company. And I got really tired of all the politics. Originally, I thought I wanted to be a CEO of a big company. I was going to work my way up. And the more I worked for these big organizations, the more I realized they don't really care about people. They care about results. So they care about being on time. They care about budgets. And there was me. I was trying to take care of my team and really loving that. And no one really cared. And I found that very disheartening. Also, the playing of politics, having to cozy up to the right people and make sure that people knew who you were. I was a little naive and a little arrogant, thinking people should just recognize you for being good at what you do. And then I came across coaching, and there was this way of being, which was encouraging people to be more, to be better, but also... Yeah, I was looking for a new career, I guess, and I came across coaching. And so I fell in love with it. It was originally something I did because they were sending someone on a training course at NatWest. They were sending someone I knew on this coaching training course. You gave me the brochure, and I took it on the train home, and I'm like, I think this is my new career. So I went on the training course. I persuaded them to send me. And then once they sent me on the training course, it's like, I don't want to do this in the organization. I want to have my own business. And then I hopped on a plane. I didn't just hop on a plane, but obviously eventually I hopped on a plane and moved to Canada. That was all part of creating a life you love. I guess that's what coaching does. It makes you think bigger about what you want for yourself and your life. And started a coaching business in Vancouver in 2004. So a long time ago now. Does that answer your question?
From where did you hop over from?
Oh, I was in the south of England near Brighton.
All right.
Yeah, people can probably tell from the accent, not Canadian.
Not
Apparently,
Canadian.
although my uncle, when I go back to England, my uncle says, "Oh, you sound so Canadian."
It's all relative, depends on the perspective. I love it.
Mm.
I'm curious, and there may be no connection, but if there is, what's the connection between your experience in corporate as you described it and your vision of what you want to be supporting with fierce kindness?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve. Um, I think we can all see what a busy, I wouldn't say crazy. We're in this VUCA world. I don't know if you know the word VUCA. I think you do, but Steve, but for those listeners, it's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And I think it's only getting worse. The world's speeding up. There's more technology, there's more challenges, the economies are changing. And I think for me, what I offer with fierce kindness is a way of being that helps us be in the world with sort of strength, but also kindness. Don't fall into the pattern of being mean or, yeah, it's hard to describe. I'm still, fierce kindness is still new. And
Mhm.
one thing I'm not very good at, as many coaches probably listening are also not so good at, is describing what I do. But okay, here's one way of describing. I like to think of fierce kindness as this power move. I reframe kindness not as a weakness, but as a strength, as a courageous kind of force that helps us speak up and show up for ourselves, both for ourselves and others. So we can use fierce kindness for things like managing our inner critic and our self-judgment, and also imposter syndrome, because that's a buzzword right now. But we can also use fierce kindness to set boundaries with others and take care of ourselves without guilt. We can also use it to go after what we want in life and stop settling. But for me and my little secret, my kind of like coach position underneath it all is I want people to feel better about themselves and their life so that they can go out into the world and make a difference and help make our world a kinder place, because I think that's really needed right now.
I get when you were talking, one word came up in my mind is survival. Like a survival kit. It's like you're talking about VUCA, and then kind fierceness is like how to survive in this uncertain world and things changing all the time and so on.
Yeah, I think that's pretty extreme, a survival kit, but I guess I don't think any of us are on the edge of survival here, but I do think we are struggling emotionally and mentally, where we are tired, we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed, we're too busy, and I think we don't get enough time to reflect, to sit back, reflect, to rest, and to think about what it is we really need and to make those changes in our life.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we're seeing that across all the research increasing in burnout and folk, like there's so much going on. Um, as you're speaking, I'm hearing words like kindness connected to nice, but not quite. I'm curious as to what gets lost if it's kindness without the fierce.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think I already mentioned this. I think one of the problems with kindness is it is seen as weakness. And I think self-kindness for me is the root of fierce kindness. It starts there. And I think there's also a bit of a gender divide here. I think women, when they're kind to themselves, feel guilt. They feel guilt because we should be taking care of others. There's other things we should be doing. And I think while men can feel guilt, and this is not as absolute divide, but I think there's pressure on men to be strong and forceful. So if men sit back and say, hey, I want to be kind to myself, there can be a shame that goes with that. So I think we need that fierce piece, that courageous piece to kind of overcome this cultural fear, this cultural shaming, this guilt that happens when we want to be kind to ourselves. So that's really important, is the fierce brings that courage to overcome these societal norms that say that kindness is weakness or kindness is selfish.
Interesting. The other thing that I hear in that is often I see kindness showing up as a form of like often self-sacrifice. Like I will compromise on me in service of being kind to others, which actually isn't kind. It isn't nice. It's detrimental to all of us, and it breeds all sorts of judgment and blame, and then all of the a lot of the stuff we're trying to prevent. But I'm hearing that actually the kindness that you're speaking to, it takes courage, it takes strength, it takes a willingness to step out to go, actually, what is kind for us is that for me right now, I need this. Or what is kind for us is that there feels like a higher level of kindness. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, I think it's a kindness plus.
Yeah.
It's it's funny. It's funny. It's really great that you raised that because I've just started a monthly kindness community gathering, and the first two topics, one of them, and people chose the topics. One of them was what's the difference between authentic kindness and people pleasing, and being nice. And then there's the one we've just done is about setting boundaries and why setting boundaries is so hard. And yeah, so kindness plus. And there are so many benefits of kindness that I think we're just not aware of. So some benefits of being kind to ourselves include our and by the way, many of these have been proved in scientific studies. So being kind to ourselves, better physical health, better mental health, increased confidence. I mean, self-kindness is literally an act of valuing yourself. When we're kind to ourselves, there's less judgment, less perfectionism, less imposter syndrome, less stress, more resilience. And one of the things that you can use to kind of switch people over, which I don't like, but it works, is that when we're kind to ourselves, we're actually nicer to other people. So the reason I don't think we should be doing that is I think all too often we kind of do things so that we can be more, like we rest so that we can work harder, we're kinder to ourselves so that we can be nicer to other people. I think we should just be kinder to ourselves because we're worth it. But I'm guessing you guys, when you're kind to yourselves, when you're feeling rested, when you're feeling in a good space, we're nicer to other people, right?
Yeah, and I see as well, it's like a battery. So you need to charge your own battery to be able to full functioning and to be able to be, because if your battery is not full, you're more irritated. That means you're less nice, you're tired, your response could be much, much unpleasant. So for me, when I hear you talking about kindness, it's like we need to be kind to be able to charge our battery so that we strong so that when we want to help people we can do that with fullness. Does that make
Yeah, absolutely. I had a vision when you said, but and I know Owen loves his metaphors, and actually I love that metaphor of a battery, Owen. But I was just thinking when you battery and you switch something on and the battery's low, it kind of goes, meh, it doesn't work properly, and that's how we are with other people. So yeah, I think fierce kindness definitely a sort of a power move, taking care of ourselves. But may I go back to the first question and just why do you think we find it so hard to be kind enough to ourselves?
So why do you think we find it so hard to be kind to ourselves?
Mhm.
Well, I mentioned about the shame and the guilt, and I'm just curious because I don't get to talk to men very often about this. Is it something, do you ever feel shame when you feeling kind to yourself, shame or guilt?
Not anymore, because
Ah, yeah, anymore.
it's it's also a process that you need to go through, that you realize. If it's another metaphor. It's like a nurse. A nurse can only help people in a hospital if they're 100%, otherwise they fall sick as well. So you need to first be able to think about yourself to like back to the battery, that your battery is full, because then you can give much more and then you can do. So thinking about myself like in the past, that happened because I'm thinking and what well, but at the end I've learned that say if I don't think about myself, I get ill and sick, and then you have all the consequences coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had
So
that with COVID, for example. I was in COVID in the hospital, and then you say, what's happening? Family will say, if I'm not getting good, it gets worse. So let me first think about myself so that then I can look at my wife, the kids, and stuff like that. So
yeah. I do think, I mean, I don't want to get into a whole gender conversation. I do think men, although they feel shame if they use words like self-care sometimes and kindness, I do think men find it a little bit easier to put themselves first than women. I think women are very conditioned to run around after everyone else.
what do you think then?
Why? I think it's our societal conditioning. I think maybe because as we grow up, when we're little, the mothers are the person we go to the first all of the time. And so we learn that mothers are the first line of defense. If you're feeling anything at all as a child, yes, we go to the father, but certainly when we're young, we tend to go to the moms. But also, I think it goes back to, we don't want to get into this, Erwin, patriarchy. Women as wives are there to serve. Your stuff belongs to them. So I think putting ourselves first is particularly hard for women. But I think when men get stressed out, I think when men get really stressed out, I think maybe it's even harder still because shame is such an unpleasant feeling. We try and avoid it. I think it's hard for both. It's hard for both.
Yeah.
Is it
But I,
also to do with culture? Because in different cultures, if you look at certainly in southern Europe, that is like the family and the woman more taking care of the family, and then in the north of Europe, it's a different kind of culture. And I think culture has a lot to do there if there's a shame or feeling bad or not feeling bad about it. What do you think?
yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think culture has a lot to do with it, and the sort of bigger culture that we're in, but also the families that we grew up in. I do know I have a friend who finds it very easy to be kind to herself and finds it very easy to put herself first, but she's a rarity. It's a rare thing. But when I was thinking about coming on here, and it's interesting. I've been on a few podcasts. This is the first one that's like a coach specific podcast. Work-life balance. What has happened? That conversation, I mean, it's still kind of there, but it's interesting how I think we lead work-life balance now more than ever, and yet for some reason it's kind of faded. It's not one of the key buzzwords anymore, and I wondered whether you had noticed that.
I saw some statistics on LinkedIn today, I reckon it was actually, where Deloitte or someone similar had done some research. And in short, what they found is that people that are working from home, like full-time work from home, are having increased engagement as compared to people that are hybrid or working in the office. And at the same time, decreased thriving in life. So
Interesting.
they're more engaged in work, but there's more stress, there's more worry, there's more burnout, like there's more sort of negative indicators. And it was really interesting for me, to your point, to have a look at this. Well, there's more engagement, and historically engagement's always been the focus of wellness. And while people can be engaged, it speaks very much to this life balance that we now have for those of us that are either working from home or have capacity to. The email comes in, you can jump on, you can keep working on the presentation deck, you can keep doing the things, you can have meetings with Canada or South Africa or Australia because it becomes available. And yeah, this blurring between work and life, I think, is really key. And to your point around kindness, well, what gets lost when we do that? Well, it's the human, it's the me, it's the I become part of that machine, and everything else gets sacrificed.
Yeah.
That's the mindset that we're taught to have.
On the other hand, I've seen also the difference where people working as an employee and more like working in the office and going to the office, that they're more and more looking at that life part of work balance, and that's where they say reduction in hours, and they want more, better environment at work, where that you I think where you're heading on, and I don't know if you've seen that, Emma-Louise, what you're doing is that difference between people that are entrepreneurial and then those people working as a workforce. I don't know what you've seen, that difference between work and life.
Yeah, I was just thinking what Steve said and what you've been saying. I think when you work from home, that work life, it's not so much work life balance, but the work life divide, it's the boundary. It's really hard to, where does work end and life start, especially if you can get email on your phone and you're sat in your living room watching telly or having lunch. It's so the work life divide is much harder to see when you're working from home. But if you're going into the office, you have a very clear, I'm at work, I'm at home. And then you can see, actually, I want more home. I know someone right now that's currently working 4 days a week and is thinking about going down to 3 days a week. And I'm like, oh, that would be lovely. But
So,
yeah,
Emma-Louise, you're working from home. So how is that work-life balance for you?
well, I've been doing it for 20 years. So for me, it was hard in the beginning, and now I kind of have a very traditional kind of Monday to Friday, not 9 to 5, it's more like 8 to 4 these days. And for me, the weekends are precious and separate, and I almost always honor that unless I've got something big. But so I've had 20 years to practice. It probably took me a good 6 to 8 years to really cement that and keep those boundaries. So if you're a coach and you're listening and you're struggling with this, just keep going. You have to find a way of working that works for you.
What are the tips that you can share with those coaches that are, and not only coaches, but other people that work home, that it took you 6 to 8 years? What are the main points that you could share with them to say, focus on this or that helps?
That is a great question. I think know when you are at your best mentally. So I have friends that are creatives and they work late into the evening. And I'm like, I could not do that. I'm tired. My brain is full. I'm tired by the evening. So know when you're good at working. Do set clear boundaries. Close office doors. I have email on my phone, but it's an email address that very few people know. And I just use it to get stuff to myself. I do not have email and those kind of apps on my phone. Yeah, setting clear boundaries about time, taking breaks. But I think it's about how you feel, noticing how you feel. And if you're feeling icky or tired or whatever, that's a time to stop, take a break, because that's something we can do if we work for ourselves. We can take a break whenever we need it. We can have a nap, we can go for a walk. These are the flexibilities we should be leaning into. But also just, yeah, knowing what works for you and what doesn't, and that you can pay attention to how you feel and then begin to create a framework around that. Yeah,
The
that's,
structure is important, huh? I hear.
yeah, I think the
Structure.
structure. So someone else might prefer to work 12. I mean, I know you have a different structure because in Spain they do have a later culture. And so you take more of a break during the day. I mean, it's what works for you, but then to create a structure around it. So notice what works, notice when you feel good, when you feel bad, when you're at your best, and build some structures around it.
One theme that's emerging for me in this, because we're talking about work-life balance, we're also still talking about fierce kindness, the setting of the boundaries, the looking after ourselves, the giving us what we need to be able to deliver and serve in other parts of our lives. And yet there's this element of permission that shows up for me. You say, well, obviously, you can take a break whenever you want. Oh, you can take a nap, we can do this. And for many of us, it's like, but no, like that's not the right thing. There's this work hard until work's finished and then play hard until it's time to work hard again. It's almost the geography of work and life gives at least some separation, and that there's these old habits, old ways of being and doing that even though we know they don't work, we won't let go of them.
Yeah. expectations, neural pathways, what we think we should be doing. So we need to get away from those shoulds. So I'll let you so I actually have changed my working in the last couple of weeks, like last few weeks. I have started designating Monday mornings as creative time. And by creative time, I mean, I read a book. It's a kind of like vaguely work related book. I don't know if I have the one I'm reading right now. It's called, The Four Pivots, how something about justice, social justice. So I read, but so it used to be Monday morning is right, come into work, gotta write something for the newsletter and get the newsletter done because Monday is newsletter day. And what I've been finding is it actually takes me longer to work like that. Like I write an article, but because I'm kind of forcing it, it's harder, it doesn't flow so well. So I just decided to make an inspiration morning. So I read a book around something that's vaguely work related that inspires me. And if I had a nap, I actually just had a nap at 10 o'clock on Monday morning last week. So I'm just kind of giving myself space to have inspiration. So my Monday mornings is now kind of inspiration, creative time. And you know what? It is so hard for me to do that. I'm excited. I'm excited when I wake up, but it's really hard to not Monday morning. I'm at it.
I can picture that guilt you were speaking about if I imagine myself doing that, going,
Yeah,
I should be doing something
should.
productive.
Yes, productive. And yet so the first time I did that, I was by accident, which is what created me deciding to try this going forwards. I wrote an article that just flowed and it was about rest. I'd been reading a book about the power of rest and I just wrote this article about fierce kindness and rest and it just kind of flowed. It took less time. It was more fun to write. It was easier to do. And I thought, I think I'm doing this wrong. I need more space and creativity for creativity and inspiration. And then it actually gets easier, but there's this big hump to be got over about what we think we should be doing. So even now, I still struggle with this, right? Like just like everyone else.
So fierceness, if I understand well as well, fierceness is like really being committed to something that you say, I need to be committed to be kind or take time out for myself.
Yeah, I have to walk my talk. Well, I don't have to, but it wouldn't feel good if I didn't. And so I haven't done anything where I've really pushed myself like that for a while. And this is a challenge. Like Monday morning, just going to the sofa and reading a book. It's lovely. It's both. It's like exciting and wonderful, and also like, ugh, my critic wants me to start work. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I mean, we need new ways of thinking and being, and yeah.
Well,
So
one of the things that if you want certain change, you need to try something else to see what you've done before is making sense and something's doing completely wrong helps you to see what you've done before makes sense or not make sense.
yeah, yeah. And if you want something to be different, then we have to do something differently,
Mm.
you know. And it kind of brings me back to why, because I think you asked why it's so hard to be kind to ourselves. And I think at its root, I think it's that we don't value and respect ourselves enough to be kind to ourselves. I mean, there's first you do have to recognize that you need some kindness. You need some kindness and self-care are not necessarily the same thing, but you need to first recognize that you need it. But you also have to believe that you deserve it. You have to value yourself and respect your needs enough to go and be kind to yourself. And that is hard. And that's what I'm doing with my sort of inspiration creative morning. I was starting to sort of wake up Monday morning and think, now I have to write the newsletter. And when that's not fun anymore, it's like, well, I have this need for space and reflection and creativity. And it's like, okay, I need to value that. I need to believe that I'm worthy of giving myself some space and time.
Talking about rude, what comes up to me is that from young, so with children already be like in school being pushed to do, and they don't have time and they're not learn to be kind to themselves, but they need to go for results and they need to have good points, and then it's like going on. So I think what you say about fierce kindness, I think going to root, it's helping people that are 50 plus. That's great, but I think we need to go to really young in school, because then they have the basis for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I think if we could teach children in schools to pay more attention to what they're feeling and to then respond to that, that is one of the things that I have a process for being kind to yourself. I don't, should I share?
Oh,
Go for it.
It's very simple. I call it PACT, as in making a pact with yourself. It's very simple. You start by pausing, connecting to yourself. You might put your hand on your heart, and you're pausing and connecting to yourself, and breathe. And just notice what's going on. So that's step one. That's P, pause. The next one is to ask. A for ask. What do I most want and need right now? What would it mean to be kind to myself? And then I think we really have to be open to hearing whatever comes up. So the next one is C, is choose. That's about choosing what you will do for yourself. And this is interesting because if you're feeling overwhelmed or tired or exhausted or whatever, it's not like there's one solution. It could be to go and have a nap. It could be to commit to going to that yoga class at the end of the day. It could be an early night. It could be a weekend away or a vacation. So when we ask what we need, it's like there are many possible solutions. So the next one is to choose. And then the last one is time, deciding exactly when you'll do it. And as coaches, you'll all know that the specificity, that's a hard word to say, being specific is really important. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just take a nap. And then we keep working. So it's like, no, I'm going to take a nap now or at lunchtime, or I'm going to go for a walk at 3 o'clock, or I'm going to stop work early, whatever it is. But you really make a specific time when you're going to do it. Because I think we don't know how to be kind to ourselves. Partly that's because we don't recognize that we need it. And I think partly it's because we don't value that idea of being kind to ourselves because of the shame and guilt. But also I think we need a little process to follow. So there you go.
I
The
love it.
PACT process.
Yeah, I think there's a lot showing up for me as I reflect on what you've said. I think you're right. I think we don't know how to be kind to ourselves. At best, we get some instances in education of how to be kind to others. Sometimes, how to be kind to self. No. One insight that I've been having as I'm listening is, personally, I'm actually struggling with what it means to be kind to self. You said it's not self-care, it's different. So there's a whole exploration for me to explore that further. But what struck me was, well, if I don't know how to be kind, how can I not be unkind? And I think that there's a lot of that we actually do, is we be unkind and nasty to ourselves when we're not doing this, or when we should be doing that, or when there's these other things happening. I can berate myself, I can judge myself, I can belittle myself. And there's all of this unkindness that I'm bringing to me. And so when we speak about the VUCA world, the complexity of everything that's going on, and the world that's happening out there, well, what I'm creating is actually the first layer of all of that. And what I'm creating for me often is not a fun place to be. And there's something about that that feels really important to change as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've nailed it, Steve. That's why Fierce Kindness starts with being kind to yourself, because I think once we're kind to ourselves and we change our own mental patterns and we feel better, then when we take that out into the world, we take that into our jobs and our families. And when we go to the local store, how we treat the person behind the counter, it all just ripples outwards from starting with being kind to yourself.
And as
And
you said, this is where kids learn it. Kids don't learn it in classes. Kids learn it through role modeling and through experience and going, wow, mommy had a bad day. Oh, look, she's looking after herself. Well, I'm going to give
Yeah,
her a moment. Not on the
yeah.
first time. Obviously, it's quick. She's sitting down. Let me jump on her. But over time, we can start to actually know. And through that looking after of self, that kindness to self, and then from that place to others, we all can learn to be better with ourselves and, of course, together.
Yeah. So there's one more thing I did want to share, which was in terms of people often ask like how they know when to be kind to themselves. And this can
Okay,
be
cool.
challenging. And so what I often get people to do, or well, when I have the opportunity, I get people to do is we look at our stress signals, because that's a good place to start. So I do a little exercise around identifying and recognizing your own stress signals. So those could be physical, emotional, thinking changes, and behavioral. So physical things like headaches. I mean, I get tense neck and shoulders and jaw. You might feel dizzy, nauseous, have a sinking feeling. Emotional changes when you notice you're feeling sad or tearful or on edge or grumpy or wistful. Thinking changes if our brain starts feeling foggy and slow, if we're having racing thoughts, or we notice we're judging ourselves more. And then behavioral is when one of mine is if I'm going to the snack drawer, that's often a sign I'm stressed. It's like I'm not actually hungry, but I'm kind of going to the snack drawer to go and get something. So behavioral changes could also be rushing, being more indecisive than usual. So if we can begin to make it, so I get people to list like these are my stress signals, these are my signs that I know I'm stressed, and then that is what you use as the trigger to be kind to yourself. And then you can use the PACT process. Then you can, so okay, here are my top 5 stress signals. See if I can remember them. Is the jaw and the shoulder tension. So if I notice that, that's one. I have a weird one, which is I feel this urge to make lists. When I'm stressed and feeling overwhelmed, I want to get a piece of paper and start writing everything down. Well, I noticed that that is one of my behavioral changes to notice that I'm stressed. And then I'm like, okay, so what's going on? What do I need? What else? Oh, I swear. When I am stressed, I notice I start swearing for no reason, like, or for very, very little reason. I'm like, that is one of my stress triggers. So those are the 3 that I can think of right now. So I use those as signals to be, okay, pause. What is it I need? What is it I'm going to do? And then when am I going to do it?
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a little
Well,
tip. And you can do that with your clients as well. You can help them identify their stress signals. And that is the sign to be kind to yourself.
or employees, or friends, family, kids. Um, I, I love the potential conflict that emerges through that discussion of, well, no, that's not a stress signal, that's normal. And
Oh,
there are a whole lot of people being there because for many of us on the planet, stress has become normalized. And just because it's regular and familiar doesn't mean it's where we are at our best. And to recognize this, differentiate from it. And as you said, to give ourselves permission to go, well, actually, what helps me show up at my best in ways that I can then best serve the people and the tasks around me? Well, that's a profoundly different question than what's next and what do I go get done?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Steve.
Mhm. I want to ask
Wow.
you something
This,
very
oh,
quickly that's a little bit going in. I know that you've been many years in coaching. You move around in a lot of in the coaching industry. You've been talking about VUCA as well. Where do you see coaching industry going? Because it's so much moving around and it's uncertainty going on. So I don't know. I know you move around a lot of environments, and what do you see? What do you see coming or changing?
Whew, that is a big question. Thank you, Owen. One thing I see happening, but I don't think it's necessarily a good thing. I mean, there's always been pressure on coaches to niche, but I think because of technology, because things like Google search doesn't really work anymore, it's kind of, there's a lot of AI stuff first. If you need to be found as a coach, it really helps to have a niche. If you want to be remembered, because there's so many coaches, there's so much noise out there. So I think there's more pressure than ever for coaches to have a niche. And yeah, I'm not sure that's a good thing, but it is helpful. So I see niching. There's been a lot of movement in the team and leadership and executive coaching world, but team coaching in particular seems is big right now. I see imposter syndrome coming up a lot. I think there's a lot of talk about imposter syndrome. I think it's sort of reached a sort of critical mass and we're talking about it. For me, talking about the inner critic is more important because that's what sits underneath imposter syndrome. But that's in the corporate world. And then it's interesting because I think the focus on work-life balance has shrunk, but I don't think it should have done. I think work-life balance is needed more than ever. And we haven't even got into talking about AI. I know there's apps. I know someone in the coaching world who is a doctor has a doctorate of coaching or a master. No, I think they have a doctorate of coaching. And they said that some of these apps are as good as a PCC coach. That is terrifying. And I think that points us to thinking not just about niching if we want to succeed as a coach, but about relationship building. One thing AI can't do at the moment in the coaching world is sort of remember all the conversations from the past that you've had and bring those in to the coaching conversation. It kind of tends to be very present and ask questions. So really building relationships with people, getting to know people deeply, offering things that offering solutions to problems that people have. Like that's always been the way you market, right? You should have a problem and offer a solution and market that. But I think you have to get so specific now. You have to really nail something to grab people's attention in this kind of super busy world. And with AI as well, I don't know whether it'll take off. I mean, I think AI can be good for like helping people set goals, like setting the goals and the kind of like the mechanics of coaching, the basics of coaching. But maybe I would recommend like developing your coaching skills so that you offer something that AI can't. Yeah, I don't know. What do you have to add?
Well, I think you mentioned the most important thing is the relationship, the human kind of thing that AI is really great that as an assistant that can help things and when you say the past conversations that you had that it can give summary, can give you, hey, what we talked about. So it can be a really great assistant. But people with all the innovation and technology that's going on, that human connection, that authenticity, this is what people are looking for, are craving for as well. It is like, okay, I need to connect with people. I want to talk to people. And I think also when you talk about fierce kindness, it's the same. I need to be kind to myself, but that means I need to be in an environment where I can talk to people and where I can. So I think that is crucial to be able uh, to stand out and embrace. So a lot of people say AI, oh, it's going to take my job, but I think it's the most important thing is instead of being against it, see how can I embrace it and help my clients with the results that they're looking for or the solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the connection piece that you mentioned is super important, like helping people, creating a sense of connection and community. I think if you can do that as a coach, you can build a community around a topic, around something you're good at, that you know deeply, and help people connect to each other. And then from there you can sell whatever it is you do. But people are, I think they're desperate for, yeah, connection. And I think maybe we're going to see more. I think maybe we're going to see more real world stuff like workshops in IRL, in real life. Yeah, I mean, Zoom is great and it is amazing, but maybe we're going to start to see more face to face again.
Yeah, I'm seeing trends towards that direction. Not just because we have to and we got to get back to the old way as people kind of resist, but there's a different layer of connection. Two things. I know we're coming to a close here, I think. in Erwin, what you're pointing to, Emma-Louise, where you're pointing, I think this concept of fierce kindness for self and others is so critical to be able to create the space for the authentic connection that people are longing for and that is so profound, particularly when we look at high-performing teams and actual team flow. The connection that we create is where the magic starts to emerge. And interestingly, I was reading an article today about AI and some trends they're starting to see in decreased intelligence levels, where people are actually outsourcing their thinking to AI and therefore not thinking as often, not practicing and not developing those skills. And I think that to me is one of the risks with an AI coach. Clients don't go to coaches because they want coaching, they go because they want answers. And one of the frustrations that clients have with coaches often initially is that, well, you never answer my question.
Yeah, you're just asking me questions.
Absolutely. And that to me is a powerful paradox, because I could ask the question, but it's easy to give me the answer that is digestible, often misaligned to reality, like it's hallucinations or whatever, but it feels good, it looks good. It's like a snack and I get the dopamine rush or whatever's going on because I think I've got an answer, as opposed to a truly compassionate and challenging, that fiercely kind coach-like conversation where I, as a client, am forced to do my own thinking, to see my own self, those stress signals you spoke about, my desires, my fears, my worries, to look at those things that are in me, in my world, and for me to grow through that process. I think that's a real opportunity and a real need of why we bring this profession and why what we have is so important.
Yeah, that's some really great points.
So, Emma-Louise, where can people, if they want to find out more about fierce kindness and what you do, where can they find you?
Well, I guess the easiest one is LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Emma-Louise Elsey on there. I believe so. So go and find me on LinkedIn. You could also sign up for my newsletter at fiercekindness.com, and you'll get a free mini workbook with 35 fiercely kind self-care actions, plus a little reminder of the PACT process. And there's also lots of free stuff, including, because we talked about this, a worksheet to help you figure out if you're people pleasing or if it's authentic kindness, and which personal boundaries need your attention. We also have free monthly community calls. Well, I probably shouldn't say the next one because I'm not sure when we're releasing this, but we have how to be kind to yourself, and we also have about being kind in a divisive world coming up. But but you can find it all over if you sign up for the newsletter at fiercekindness.com.
Perfectly. We'll put them under the video and in other places where people can find it. So, Emma-Louise, thank you very much for this entertaining and deep talk about kindness and being kind about ourselves, with ourselves. So thank you very much. And everybody else, until next time, bye.
Bye. It was lots of
Thanks
fun.
for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.